Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl, and the Cyberpunk Witch Priestess to the stars. And before I start, I would love to ask you to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Any interaction with these videos really helps, spread the word about them. And what else was I going to say? Oh yes, my series Reborn Immersion is just really coming together in most beautiful ways. So if you're still thinking of possibly coming along, the link's always in the description below. So check it out and come and join us on the 21st and 22nd. It is all recorded, and I have decided I'm going to record it in segments, um, and so you may get to keep the recording of the teaching bit, just not the bit where we look at people's charts. That's only going to be in the portal. But anyway, what was I going to say? Another thing. Not about that. Well, anyway, check it out and we'll be there. So I'm doing, this is looking at the Pisces new moon that's coming up on March the 18th, the day after St. Patrick's Day, and 2 days before the equinox. And I keep saying solstice, which is really weird because it's not, it's the equinox. And what a world we live in, right? I'm not going to go on too much about that, but I do want to say that this some of what we're seeing is the shadow of the changing world order of the Saturn Neptune. So just because Saturn Neptune met at 0 Aries and really began a major new cycle, that doesn't mean it's set in stone. But you can't make up the astrology sometimes. So Saturn is structure and Neptune is very associated with oil. I think we see where that's going. Also, the other one, Kathy and I on Friday, or whenever we recorded the last video, we did look at the charts of kind of the main players in this conflict, in this war, and they were all born on an eclipse day, and all of this happened in the eclipse season. But I talked a lot about how the three players, even though they may not be like the heads of the religion, are playing out this kind of messianic kind of end times kind of energy that they believe in. So yeah, there was the Mahdi, the Greater Israel, and the Christian Zionists. So you can look up what their views are about that. So, but that is also very Saturn Neptune, kind of this authoritarian hammer of saying my way is the best way, and this one, might is right, kind of mine is right kind of thing. So again, I don't think it'll last. Not only do I think all of this is going to be the end of empire in many ways when it all shakes out, I also think it could be the end of the hegemony of some of the major religious factions in the world. We'll see. But again, these things don't always just end on a day. So on to the Pisces new moon, which is the seventh of the seventh of seven new moons at 28 degrees. One was the Aquarius eclipse. But as always, I'm going to show you the cards first of all, and we'll come back to the cards at the end. So, I want to turn these over because I pulled all the tarot cards reversed, which is really interesting. Anyway, King of Torches. That King of Torches has come out quite a lot lately, and we've got all this stuff moving into Aries, so this is very pertinent. Then we've got the Eight of Vessels or Cups, again reversed. I've seen a lot of people feeling very down about what's going on in the world, quite rightly so. It's reflected in the cards. And we got another seven, the Seven of Bees, which is swords in other decks. And I trimmed my bangs wonky. have to trim them again. She of the Invisible Ally. We've had that card before from the Witch Oracle deck. Now, I don't usually pull that many cards for a new and full moon. I normally just pull one, but this one is so potent because it's at 28 Pisces. And we've had so much piled up at the end of the zodiac. Saturn never moved off 29 Pisces. Sorry, Neptune never moved off 29 Pisces when it retrograded back into Pisces to finish that journey in that. And we've had, Mercury and Venus retrogrades last March. We're going back and forth over that degree. We've just had a lot around 28, 29, the last 2 degrees of the zodiac. So I thought it deserved a deeper look into the cards. But let's look at the astrology first of all. So where's my chart? So here is the Pisces new moon. It's on March the 18th here in DC. It will be on March the 19th if you're to the east of Washington DC. So, UK and Australia, all the places, this will be March the 19th, but it's still at the same degree. So, and so this is where the new moon is. I've highlighted these in these turquoisey blue. And I've highlighted these major aspects to the new moon. The new moon is making its own mini grand trine in earth and water signs. This is to Juno in Capricorn, and Juno happens to be at the degree that Pluto last stationed direct at when it was leaving Capricorn for good and moving into Aquarius. So personally, I think that's significant. And Uranus at 28 Taurus is now moved off the station degree and is headed out of Taurus for the last time in about 78 years. Most of us will not be around for the next time Uranus enters Taurus. So this is called, various things by various people, but I'm calling it a mini grand trine. We have a building and growing mini grand trine between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which will be more exact or most exact in July. I've looked at it before. Believe me, I'll be looking at it. Lots of astrologers will be looking at that one because that's the 3 main slow moving planets, I have to say. But this new moon is activating it from that last degree or the last 2 degrees of the zodiac. And Uranus is bringing radical change. And this is Juno, which is our sacred contracts with each other, all relationships. It's kind of like the sacred marriage. She was the wife of Jupiter or Zeus, depending which Greek or Roman myths. and so this is in earth and water. This is in yin signs, but this is very much about eroding, washing away, finishing things up before Uranus finishes the journey in Taurus and Juno finishes the journey in Capricorn. Also, you can see that we have, Pholus is slightly here, but he's very slow moving. I'm not going to count him for this. I'm going to draw another line on here. We have all of the planets all in, and even like the major asteroids, all in one half of the zodiac. But not only that, apart from Pluto and some asteroids, we have all the other major planets in the last, the first, and just the second signs of the zodiac. So just in a quadrant of the zodiac. This is intensely compacted energy. And they're all kind of speaking to each other in many ways, but There are no major oppositions going on, apart from some additions that I add into the chart. You know, this is, it's just like, this is bringing change, new cycles, ending cycles, new cycles. I've been talking about this all the time. So not only are we at the seventh, and funny, I picked two sevens. Seven I see as the most spiritual of numbers. Um, this is the seventh new moon at 28 degrees. They start changing then. It's making this lovely earth and water, sculpting and eroding and shifting, shape shifting kind of energy in earth and water, and starting to shape something new. And Uranus being radically new, Juno being about bringing in, remembering that we're all interconnected and that we really get to create new structures. I'm still convinced that we are totally at the end of empire, the end of the patriarchy, the end of whatever you want to call it, the hierarchy, that something very new is going to emerge. But again, it will take a while to shake out. But all of these are kind of moves towards it, because the more humans that realize we are interconnected, the more that will come into play. I mean, just for an example, I think the last poll I saw, this conflict, whatever you want to call it, war conflict, I think it was about 60% of Americans were opposed to it. The UK Prime Minister has refused to join in with the war. So has most of Europe and NATO. They've allowed them to use air bases, but then there's conflicts like breaking out between other nations, or at least Lebanon and Israel for a start. But also Iran has been bombing Saudi and Bahrain and the UAE, which really are basically made up kind of countries from partition when the British Empire left that region. So empire, colonialism, power over, dominator culture, whatever you want to call it, patriarchy, has a lot to answer for, really. So unfortunately, a lot of people are being hurt through this, but so we send, peace and love. But I really don't think this is going to change, last very long. Now, another reason, and then I'll just go to what this new moon means personally for you. So another reason I don't think it's going to last long is that Saturn and Neptune are really trotting along now. Saturn is now over 2 degrees already away from Neptune. Now Saturn will go retrograde on July the 26th at 14 Aries, but Neptune is already retrograde then. And December the 10th, when Saturn turns direct, they are still going to be over 6 degrees apart, because Saturn will be at 7, there's that number again, and Neptune will be at 1. So that Saturn-Neptune conjunction was a one-off. Yes, it was at this powerful point, but they are parting rather quickly. Okay. And so after, in next year, so August the 9th, Saturn turns retro at 27 Aries, and then will turn direct on December the 23rd, 27 at 21 Aries. By that point, Neptune is only at 3 degrees. So you can see they are really not going to be interacting together for very long. The next closest degree is in 29, when January 29, when Saturn stations direct, but that whole retrograde will be in Taurus. So there will be a whole sign apart by then. So some of these Saturn-Neptune conjunctions happened more than one time. Okay, this is a one-off. Whatever is launched now And whatever was launched in these eclipses is going to change very quickly, I think. So yes, we have that mini grand trine, which is a lovely, really supportive kind of energy. And other aspects that I'll talk to in this are that Jupiter has just stationed direct. In fact, I'm recording this on March the 10th, and Jupiter is about to station direct at 15:05 Cancer. But by the time of the new moon, Venus has moved to 15 Aries, and she'll be conjunct asteroid Lilith, who says, talk to the hand, I'm not doing this anymore. Rebellious. And Venus is our values and our relationships and money. Now, this is a closing square, and this is like the crisis crossroads in consciousness. Where have we been since August the 12th last year, when Venus and Jupiter met with fixed star, son of our sun, dog star Ceres, at 14 Cancer? So it's activating when this cycle started. So think back to your life, and especially if you have energies around 14, 15 degrees of these cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, particularly, what's changed, what's ready to shift, and what are you ready to let go of, and then ready for an expansion when Venus and Jupiter next meet. I know I'm giving you a lot of dates, but you can, just soak up the kind of energy, really. So, and take which ones speak to you. So Jupiter and Venus will, because Venus is moving really fast towards her retrograde that's in October. My Venus class will be then, by the way, my next Venus class. The two will meet again in Cancer at 25 degrees, which is the degree Jupiter stationed retrograde at. And this is cardinal signs. This is new beginnings. So something was started last August. Now it's reaching that release, let go stage. What can I do differently? Ready to manifest the future that we would like to see as things really start to shift in the summer of this year. Okay, so the other three things I would like to mention, I've highlighted these in a different color. Oh, Hygeia, by the way, is aspecting the new moon too. I'll talk to that. But these here, we have Chiron. This is Okiroe, which is the daughter of Chiron and Chariklo. And this is Eris. And they are all, oops, I didn't mean to do that. They are all at 24 degrees Aries. And in fact, Chariklo and Okiroe meet exactly on that day. His father, daughter. They both are just a minute apart from Eris, the table turner, who fights for outsiders. She's called the goddess of discord, and she does cause discord, but often, as I've said before, she kind of reveals the vanity of the bonfires of the elites, if you like. Okay. And they meet at 24 degrees, almost 25 degrees, almost that 7 again, but 24 is the 6, which is the number of the divine feminine. I will speak to that a little bit more, but I wanted to point out that Chariklo is at 24 degrees Aquarius too. So they are close to this exact sextile. However, none of them actually make this supportive sextile until later. Chariklo and Okiroe last met in 2012. Oh, what was that? That was in Sagittarius, 7 Sagittarius actually on my Mars. I think I'm going to have to do a whole video for this. Chariklo and Okiroe. So this is mother and son, now father and mother and child. Sorry, she's definitely a female. She's a seer prophetess. And Chiron and Okiroe last met in 1977, which was the year that Chiron was discovered. So I think I'm going to have to do a whole little video about these three, because this is like the divine family. This is like Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. This is like Isis, Osiris, and Horus. There's this trinity of parent and divine child right throughout mythological history. And I think it's no coincidence, because I do not believe in them, that these three are all speaking to each other. Now then, I'll talk to that more in a minute. So don't get too tied up in the numbers. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what it all means for you. So I've mentioned already, this is the new moon, 7th of 7, the last in a series of 7 of this, very spiritual number. 7 in numerology is said to be the seeker. This is wisdom, introspection, spiritual awareness. It's often sometimes said to be ruled by Neptune, or but it's the philosophical, and it can be kind of like very intuitive and very contemplative number. And as you see, we've got 2 7s reversed, which is also very inward and very intuitive. But in the tarot as well, the 7 is also said to be, sorry, I'm getting out my own book here, Tarot and Astrology. The 7 is also said to be related to reflection and the element of water. So here we have this really watery new moon almost at the very anoretic liminal degree, which of the sign that is both the womb and the chaos of creation. And it's that moment before birth, before moving into the next sign, the first sign of the zodiac, Aries. Pisces is very much about that cloud of unknowing. It's about chaos, confusion, but creativity, intuition, compassion, all of those things. And of course, we've got the North Node still in Pisces. And incidentally, on this new moon, Mercury is conjunct the North Node and about station direct. So this is really internal. This is about really listening to that inner voice, tuning in. There is the downside, the shadow of it, that it can be a little bit depressing, because Pisces can go into fear of the unknown, can feel very low, very depressed, and not know where to go. But this is a new moon, remember. We're in the dark of the moon on the 18th, ready, like almost right after the new moon. The moon, of course, moves faster into Aries. Then the sun enters Aries 2 days later. And, things really kick up in a cardinal sign and really change. This new moon is kind of, the last, one of the last major blasts of that chrysalis stage, where the caterpillar kind of gets broken down into this kind of mush, and then is reformed and birthed as something highly new, the butterfly. We've been in this stage for quite a long time, I have to say, but doesn't it feel like this is like coming to an end? And I know a lot of people fear that literally it is the end times, and Hegseth, or Hegsdeath, as I saw him called, likes to say this is Armageddon, but there is no such thing as Armageddon in the Bible. This is a thing that really the Christian Zionists have kind of added to it and made up, because most extreme versions of religion, I will say, are really all about control and domination. And I think it's the end of that. But anyway, I'm lecturing again. I don't want to offend anybody who has a strong faith and belief, because Pisces is about faith and belief. My personal faith and belief is in the natural order of the cosmos, if you like. That's why I'm an astrologer. I believe in really descending into Earth, okay, and really coming into our wholeness as human beings in this suit. Okay, spiritual beings in a human suit, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that's really the new moon, and the aspects to Uranus. Uranus is saying, like, aha ideas, that radical ways to change, radical changes coming about how we live on this planet. Juno is suggesting that we are going to have an opportunity to start building structures, rules, and institutions that really reflect our interconnectedness in all ways. Again, I don't want to get into too specifics, because I think this is potentially global, realizing that this is it. We are here, we are all in it together, and things are going to change. It might seem impossible at the moment, but if you re-say impossible, it's I'm possible, right? So anyway, so on to the centaurs, Chiron, Chariklo, and Okiroe, and meeting with Eris. So Chiron, Chariklo, and Okiroe are really, to my mind, the three main centaurs, but they all of course work. Interestingly, Okiroe is actually in the asteroid belt, but for some reason astronomers have called her a centaur, so I will. Also, Chariklo, incidentally, she has rings. She's actually more planet-like, and her orbit is fairly round compared to other centaurs. And Chariklo and Chiron, is said to be kind of the wounded healer. Now, the myth of Chiron is that he gave up his immortality to heal his own wound and to heal Prometheus too. Prometheus, who had stolen the fire of the gods and brought it down to humans. And according to Richard Tarnas in his book Cosmos and Psyche, Uranus should have been named Prometheus. So they're all involved in this. But to my mind, the centaurs are all called bridge walkers in a way. And Chariklo is a cosmic doula. She really is the space holder for us writing this new story for the future. She's actually on my Chiron on this. I just realized this morning. I was like, oh. But anyway, so all this is affecting my personal Chiron. And Chiron is, as I say, both the wound and the medicine. And Okiroe has this seer quality. She is able to kind of tune into what's to come. And so this adds to this intuitive kind of energy. But they're next to Eris. Eris, who upset the apple cart of the order of planets and astrology, just as she upset the apple cart of the gods and goddesses in the myth, which led to the fall of Troy, which led to the fall of empire. I'm just saying that these are in another supportive aspect of opportunity, a sextile to each other in fire and air, to bring in something new, to show us what we need to do. And with Okiroe and Chiron, father and daughter, in a way, in the sign of Aries, could be saying that maybe the divine child was always a girl all along. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's beyond gender, but it's the divine feminine, really. We are bringing the divine feminine back. It's rising. Everything I look at says so. I did want to add in that one aspect to Hygeia from the new moon. Hygeia is in Gemini, so the new moon is square to Hygeia. Hygeia has been retrograde, and she is square to the new moon, so that's bringing the change for preventative holistic healing in our communities. So in a way, this is nearly the end, right? We still have Mercury to turn direct. We still have Mercury and Mars to meet a couple of times, and then they will move into Aries, and that I'll have to do a whole other video for that. And this is about thinking about our action after this Mercury retrograde, which has been a very trippy journey to my mind of going within and saying, "Ooh, yeah, this is kind of wild, right?" Sorry, I've felt really well. It's square all my Sagittarius planets, so I'm just going to say this is it's been a trippy inwards journey for me, but and I've had my moments of despair at what's happening in the world, but I have this utter faith, Pisces, that it's going to shake out all right, while still feeling compassion and grief for anybody that's hurt in all this and their families. I did want to share one other thing, and then I'm going to go to the cards. Incidentally, Ceres, I mentioned my workshop, is already in Taurus, where she was discovered, the sign that she was discovered in. So she'll be having her Ceres return later. She'll be at 2 degrees Taurus on the workshop, which starts 3 days after this new moon. And she's coming up to square Pluto, and they will square each other on March the 28th at 5 degrees, which is a number of change. Now that is the opening square for these two, who I think are both kind of the Divine Mother and our shadow inside, if you like, or our root soul desires, and how we nurture and mother ourselves. And Ceres is very associated with Taurus. Anyway, this is an opening square from a conjunction that happened on December the 7th, 2024 at 0 Aries with Venus there. So I think this opening square is also another really important thing, and it's an opening square. This is saying things are going to start happening, and the new earth is going to start being created. Ooh. Along with my mission to bring in a new way of working with astrology. In fact, I'd like a new astrological language in many ways. So, why did I do that one? Honestly, you cannot make this thing up sometimes. I'm like, why am I at the Queen of Vessels? I will find the King of Torches. So the King of Torches is I am dynamic. But I'll show you the card. Oh, these are the deck I'll be using in the workshop, by the way, because it is about the Demeter Persephone myth, which is Ceres. Anyway, this was the main torchbearer and the second most important officiate in the Eleusinian mysteries, and was held in high esteem. So here's the card again, but I pulled in reversed. So remember, this is an inward journey. So this world, I'm reading you a quote for this. This world, which is the same for all, has not been made by any god or man, but it always has been and always will be an ever-living fire. Heraclitus. That's an interesting quote. But anyway, I get for this message that we carry the fire within. And this is saying that. And this is, been an ongoing message with all this Aries stuff. But this is saying each one of us carries this fire within. Okay, each one of us is the torchbearer in so many ways. The Dadushus, I'm not sure how you say it, okay, was in charge of torchbearers and the upkeep of all fires, and somehow also created the magnificent and revelatory effects which occurred on the final night of the initiation temple. But like the king, though, we are all masters and leaders of our own life. This card is encouraging you to trust yourself and your instincts and to not worry if others don't keep up with you or disagree with you. This is offering abundant vitality, but you've got to find it within. Okay, so that's finding your inner dynamism in an effect, really. So, okay, 8 of Vessels. This is I am moving on, but this is an inward one again. And let me read you the quote again, and a little bit more about it. This is the Mistai, by the way, but anyway, I think so. Anyway, laughter always follows tears. Blessed are those who understand. Life blossoms wherever water flows. Where tears are shed, divine mercy is shown. That's Rumi. The Mistai stood silent at the entrance to the cave known as the Plutonian. This was the temple of Hades that stood within the Eleusinian sanctuary, and seen as the place where Persephone and her husband would descend and ascend. An omphalos stone stood at the cave entrance, marking a boundary which only the dead or initiated could cross to reach the underworld. The cave walls dripped with water, which the Melissae collected and gave to the Mistai. They drank the waters and gave some back to the earth, asking Hades for guidance and compassion when they crossed into his world the next day. So it's time to move on, to find out who we really are. A different level of awareness is calling us and may descend for a time, for it seems there is something or someone we need to let go of from our lives. And it could be some part of you, right? Okay. So it's not just about a person. Okay. We are about to leave a piece of the past. In fact, I think we're about to leave a major part of the past behind and have to trust that this is the right thing to do. But abandonment, grief, and sadness may be flowing, and anxiety and fear may accompany these times. It's difficult to walk away and deal with loss and change, but it seems there may be many reasons to walk forward at this time. What might lie in front of you is not relevant just now. We just need to create space for our true self. Walk on. Life will find a way. Wow. I had not read these books before, and I had not touched this deck for quite some while, but it's calling to me again for the series immersion for good reasons. So now we get the 7 of Bees, and the bees are swords, which is generally the mind. And this is I am vigilance, but this is reverse. So this is I am inner vigilance, but also it's got a warning. But let me read the quote again. That which is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bees. Marcus Aurelius. This card can be a warning to be wary of false truths, lies, and deceit. Manipulative behavior, unfaithfulness, stealth, or hurtful gossip are all possibilities. You could be the perpetrator or the victim. Scrutiny of both ourselves and others is advised, as delusion and illusion can be at the very heart of this disturbing and insecure energy. Be aware of a possible sting, as your thoughts might be distorted, making you an easy target. Secrets are in the balance. Do we hold on to them, or do they belong somewhere else? This is a time to reflect on how you perceive the truth. Don't allow something to be taken away that you are not willing to give from your heart. Be doubly aware. I'll let you take what you need from those cards and we'll go to the She of the Invisible Ally. I will quickly read some of the book. Whoops. Sorry, I just knocked my screen. Probably didn't affect you, but did me. I was like, oh, suddenly I could not see it. And guess what? Though She of the Invisible Ally in the Witch Oracle deck is card number 7. So I'll go back to that number very quickly before we move forward. So card number 7. I'm going to read just the last bit. We've had her a few times. This is a good time for dreaming and journeying. Take a walk in nature. Seek out a credible plant shaman who can help you access the gifts of the green world. By the way, we'll be doing shamanic journey work in the series Immersion. Spend some time in the liminal realm with active imagination in the tradition of archetypals. Oh, I don't like that bit of the book. Anyway, put yourself in the way of magic. Helpful spirits are ready to guide you, and now is the time to summon them to show themselves. So, next new moon will be in Aries. And boy, oh boy, that's a biggie. But for this is also a biggie. It's huge. But this one really is about tuning inwards, releasing some really old stuff and making a new start, planting those seeds for interconnectedness, for creativity, for co-creating the world we live in, all of those things. Much love.